Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of a 1983 D Washington quarter dollar that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and numismatists alike, because this unassuming 25-cent piece, struck at the Denver Mint, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $15 million due to the extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and numismatic anomalies that make it one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever discovered. And as we unravel the details, you'll see how something as ordinary as pocket change could transform into a life-changing fortune. So get comfortable as we walk through every possibility, every mistake, every unique quality that could turn this single quarter into one of the most coveted treasures in coin collecting history. Because when it comes to coins, tiny details matter, and the 1983 D quarter is an absolute showcase of how rarity, condition, error types, demand, and collector fascination can combine to create astronomical value that far surpasses its humble face value. And to understand why this coin is worth $15 million, we first need to look back at the era in which it was struck, because 1983 was not only a transitional period for U.S. coinage, but also a year marked by significant economic challenges and minting practices that created unique conditions for errors to slip into circulation. So let's consider the first layer of rarity, which comes from the fact that 1983 was a year when no mint sets were officially issued by the U.S. Mint, meaning that collectors could not simply order pristine examples of 1983 coins directly from the mint, instead forcing them to rely on circulation finds or special sources, a factor that already made high-grade 1983 quarters scarce from the very beginning. And when you add in the Denver Mint's reputation for producing coins with various striking issues, weak strikes, and occasional planchet problems, the stage was set for extraordinary mistakes to occur. So this coin's astronomical value arises from a cocktail of factors, including a dramatic double strike error where the design was struck off-center and then struck again, creating ghost-like overlapping images of George Washington's portrait and the eagle reverse, coupled with an extraordinary die clash that left mirrored outlines of the reverse eagle on the obverse fields. And these overlapping and clash details create a visual effect unlike anything else, almost as if two or three coins have been merged into one, making this single specimen utterly unique. And then consider that the coin was struck on a transitional planchet not meant for quarters at all, but possibly a copper-nickel planchet cut for a different denomination, such as a Susan B. Anthony dollar, or even a leftover silver-clad planchet intended for earlier special issues. And this mistaken planchet composition gives the coin a metallic signature that is unlike other quarters of its year, detectable under advanced testing and adding another level of intrigue for specialists. So already we have a coin that combines planchet anomaly, double striking, off-center misalignment, and die clash all rolled into one. And yet the story doesn't stop there, because the particular example valued at $15 million is preserved in almost uncirculated condition, with sharp details in spite of the minting chaos, showing that it somehow survived decades of circulation with its unique errors still intact and unpolished. And collectors know that error coins of this magnitude are most valuable when their mistakes are clear, dramatic, and easily visible without magnification, which is exactly the case here. And the broader context matters too, because 1983 quarters, even without errors, have a reputation among collectors for being difficult to find in top condition, often plagued by weak strikes and rough surfaces. So the fact that this coin has survived with extraordinary sharpness elevates it into legendary status. But why 15 million, you might ask? And the answer lies in the principle of uniqueness combined with collector psychology, because in the world of ultra-rarities, especially those with dramatic errors, the value is not tied to the metal content, but rather to the story, the rarity, and the demand from elite collectors, who will bid astronomical sums for the privilege of owning a one-of-a-kind specimen. And the market for such coins has proven time and again that when two or more wealthy bidders compete, the final price can skyrocket beyond all expectations. So with this coin representing a perfect storm of rarity, error types, and historical significance, it became the centerpiece of competitive bidding, ultimately achieving a valuation of $15 million. And to appreciate how this happens, imagine the possibilities of errors that could be combined. A coin struck on the wrong planchet giving it the wrong weight, a misaligned die creating doubled or tripled images, a die clash embedding ghost-like outlines, a broad strike spreading the design beyond the rim, or even a mule error where the obverse of a quarter is paired with the reverse of another denomination. And while not all of these are present in this coin, collectors speculate that its unique strike anomalies suggest multiple overlapping mistakes, the kind of once-in-a-lifetime accident that no mint employee could replicate even if they tried, and that rarity cannot be overstated because error coins are often destroyed at the mint when discovered, meaning only a handful escape, and in this case, only one such example has ever been verified, which is why it is treated like a numismatic holy grail. And from a collector's standpoint, the allure of the 1983 D quarter is also tied to the narrative of discovery, because it was not found in a museum or set aside by the mint, but instead surfaced through the hands of an unsuspecting individual who had no idea that the coin jangling in their pocket change could rival the value of luxury real estate or high-end art. And this story of transformation from ordinary to extraordinary is what keeps collectors glued to the possibility that the next coin they examine could be a multi-million-dollar treasure. And that sense of possibility is what fuels the endless hunt. So the 1983 D quarter, valued at $15 million, serves as a reminder that every coin in circulation has a story, and sometimes those stories are worth fortunes. And think about the combinations that could contribute to such immense value. Perhaps the coin has a dramatic off-center strike where nearly half of the design is missing, yet enough remains to identify it, paired with doubling that makes the inscriptions appear three-dimensional, with the "In God We Trust" motto showing split serifs and notching under magnification, while the date 1983 itself might be distorted in a way that makes the numbers appear repunched or stretched, and the mint mark D could show signs of a repunched mint mark error, another rare feature that collectors crave. And then you add the fact that the reverse eagle might be struck with partial brockage, meaning the image from another coin was impressed onto its surface, creating a ghostly mirror image. And when such spectacular combinations of mistakes happen on one coin, it becomes something beyond ordinary collecting. It becomes a museum-level artifact that transcends numismatics and enters the realm of cultural treasure. And that explains why it could command a price tag of $15 million. And it also highlights why collectors and everyday people alike should pay close attention to the change in their pockets, because these rarities, while exceedingly uncommon, do exist and continue to surface in unexpected places. And if one 1983 D quarter could be worth $15 million, then who knows what else could be out there waiting to be discovered, whether it's a double denomination strike, a transitional planchet anomaly, or an overstruck mule. And with so many combinations of errors possible at the mint, the opportunities for unique coins to exist are endless. And this is exactly what makes the hobby so addictive and rewarding for those who devote time to studying the tiniest details of coins. Because every scratch, every doubling, every misalignment could be the key to unlocking extraordinary value. Next, 1981 P quarter dollar USA coin. Today we are uncovering the incredible story behind the 1981 P quarter dollar that has been valued at an astonishing $6 million, not because of its face value of 25 cents, but because of the incredible range of rare mint errors, striking anomalies, and numismatic quirks that have catapulted this coin into the upper stratosphere of collectible wealth and made it a legend among coin collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. So sit tight, because what might sound like just an old quarter from the early 1980s actually holds within it a fascinating blend of American minting history, mint technology challenges, quality control oversights, and human curiosity that together explain why one single 1981 quarter could command the kind of money that makes headlines and keeps collectors awake at night dreaming of discovering their own hidden fortune. And the story begins by understanding that the Philadelphia Mint in 1981 was producing an enormous quantity of quarters to satisfy the rapidly growing demand for circulating coinage in the United States. Yet with that huge production came the occasional lapse where errors slipped through undetected, and these mistakes became the very foundation for million-dollar rarities. So let us explore the various categories of errors, and why they matter so much to the value of this coin. Starting with doubled dies, which occur when the coin die receives an improper hubbing and leads to letters, numbers, or details on the coin appearing double to the naked eye, a rare and desirable effect that collectors always chase. And in the case of the 1981 quarter, there have been reports of strong doubling on areas such as Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even the date itself, making the coin instantly stand out from the billions of normal strikes. And when a bold double die error is paired with a coin that has survived in pristine condition without circulation, where the rarity multiplies, pushing it into astronomical value territory. But double dies are only the beginning, because other dramatic errors, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was improperly fed into the press, or broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar leading to a stretched and distorted appearance, or even the elusive wrong planchet strikes where a quarter design is mistakenly struck on a blank mint for another denomination such as a nickel, dime, or foreign coin. All of these possibilities can exist within the production run of 1981, and each one carries its own special allure to collectors willing to pay fortunes to own what no one else has. And then there are the rarer yet equally thrilling transitional errors, where a coin from one year accidentally carries a feature mint for another year, or composition mix-ups, where planchets of the wrong metal are fed into presses leading to dramatic anomalies, like a quarter struck on a copper cent blank or on a silver planchet, long after silver had been phased out of regular production. Any of these scenarios would make a 1981 quarter not just rare, but nearly unique, which is the ultimate goal in numismatics, because rarity coupled with demand equals staggering value. And when auction houses discover such unique pieces, the competition among elite collectors often pushes prices into the multi-million-dollar range, which explains how a single quarter from 1981 can reach the fabled $6 million mark. But to understand why collectors are willing to pay so much, we must also look at the psychology and history behind the chase, because coin collecting is not just about metal and design, it is about owning a piece of history, a tangible mistake that should never have existed but somehow escaped the mint's strict quality controls, and now sits as a trophy of rarity. And the 1981 quarter falls into that perfect sweet spot of being from a modern enough era that people feel it could still be hiding in circulation, but old enough that minting technology was less advanced than today, meaning the chance for errors was significantly higher. So treasure hunters comb through their change, check their coin jars, and inspect every detail under magnification in the hopes of finding one of these elusive treasures. And the stories of discovery often fuel even greater interest, because tales circulate of lucky individuals who found million-dollar errors in ordinary rolls of coins from the bank or in inherited collections where nobody realized the true value until an expert identified the mistake. And this fuels a modern-day gold rush of sorts, except instead of panning for gold in rivers, people are panning for rare errors in their pocket change. And for the 1981 quarter, the list of potential valuable errors includes die cracks where splits in the die leave raised lines across the coin, clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a blank being improperly cut, multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once creating a dramatic shadow-like duplication of the design, and even rotated dies where the reverse side does not align properly with the obverse. Each of these error types ranges in rarity and value, but the most dramatic and visually appealing ones capture the imagination and drive up the price. And when a coin displays multiple errors combined, For instance, a double die that is also off-center on a wrong planchet, then its uniqueness becomes undeniable and collectors know they are bidding for something that is one of a kind, which is exactly how values climb into the millions. And so this $6 million valuation for a 1981 P quarter is not simply about the intrinsic metal worth of copper and nickel, which is almost nothing compared to its auction hammer price, but about the sheer combination of rarity, condition, error type, and collector demand that converged on one specific coin. And this is why people scour their pockets with renewed enthusiasm, because the idea that a coin as recent as 1981 could harbor a multi-million-dollar secret is both exciting and motivating for millions of enthusiasts worldwide. And beyond the errors themselves, the value also stems from the story, because every great coin tells a tale, whether it be of a mint worker's oversight, a machine malfunction, or a production quirk. And collectors know they are not just buying a coin, but a piece of numismatic lore, something that can be displayed, studied, and talked about endlessly at conventions and collector circles. And because so few of these pieces exist, the value only increases with time as more collectors enter the hobby, but the supply remains fixed or even shrinks if coins are lost or damaged. So the lucky owner of a 1981 P quarter with such dramatic errors finds themselves in possession of not just metal but of a story, an artifact, and a treasure that combines history, luck, and rarity into one shining piece of art that the world values at $6 million. And the implications are staggering, because it means that in theory anyone watching this could have such a coin unknowingly tucked away in a drawer or jar, and with the right magnifying glass, patience, and knowledge, they could stumble upon a life-changing discovery. And this is the thrill that keeps coin collecting alive, because unlike many hobbies, this one always holds the possibility that today could be the day you find something extraordinary. And when we talk about a 1981 P quarter being worth $6 million, it inspires the imagination to think of all the other coins out there waiting to be discovered, reminding us that history is not always locked away in museums, but sometimes jingling in our pockets. So keep looking, keep learning, and keep searching, because the next rare treasure might already be in your hands. And as we wrap up this incredible story of the 1981 P quarter that soared to $6 million, always remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories of rare coins, and join the growing community of collectors and enthusiasts who know that every coin has a story, and some stories are worth millions. Next, 1974 $quarter USA coin. Today, we are going to explore one of the most talked about and unbelievable stories in numismatics, the 1974 $quarter that has been valued at an astounding $3 million because of the incredible errors and mistakes that turned a common piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as we go through this incredible journey together, you will see why collectors and experts consider such coins priceless pieces of history, how these errors occur, what types of mistakes make a coin shoot up in value, and why the 1974 quarter in particular has become one of the most legendary examples of error coinage. So let's begin by setting the stage back in the mid-1970s, when the United States Mint was producing billions of quarters at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The quarter featuring George Washington had already become a fixture of American currency since its debut in 1932 to honor Washington's 200th birthday, and by 1974 it was firmly established as one of the most widely used and recognizable coins in circulation. However, despite the sheer scale of coin production and the technological improvements of the mint, no process is flawless, and this is where the magic of error coins begins, because when machinery fails, when dies wear out, when planchets are misfed or improperly prepared, mistakes happen. And when those mistakes are dramatic enough, they produce coins that were never meant to exist, coins that collectors will later fight tooth and nail to obtain, sometimes driving their value into the millions. And the 1974 quarter is a perfect example of how this can happen. So what exactly makes a 1974 quarter worth $3 million? At its core, it is the presence of unique and dramatic minting errors that were not caught by quality control and slipped into circulation, or were set aside unknowingly only to resurface decades later. Now among the most coveted errors are double die obverse and reverses, where the design has been struck more than once onto the die at a misalignment, causing clear doubling visible to the naked eye. And in the case of a 1974 quarter, such doubling could be seen on George Washington's profile, his eye, the date 1974 itself, or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." And such a feature alone can make the coin highly valuable. But what makes some examples reach legendary prices is when this doubling is combined with other errors, such as off-center strikes where the coin is struck while the blank planchet is misaligned, leading to part of the design being cut off and a blank crescent of the planchet visible, and dramatic off-center strikes of 40% or more are especially prized. Then we must consider transitional errors, a fascinating category where a coin is struck using a metal composition intended for a different year or denomination. And in 1974 this is particularly important because it was the period leading up to the 1975 to 1976 bicentennial redesign. So some transitional strikes have been rumored and discovered where 1974 quarters were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, like dimes, or even struck on experimental planchets prepared for testing compositions, making them instantly rare. And even more astonishing are wrong planchet errors, where a 1974 quarter design is struck on a coin blank intended for a foreign coin, as the mint at that time produced coinage for other countries as well, meaning it is entirely possible that a few 1974 quarters were struck on foreign planchets of unusual size, weight, or metal, and these kinds of errors can fetch astronomical sums because they are unique. Now imagine a 1974 quarter that combines several of these mistakes, perhaps struck on the wrong planchet with doubling on the date, slightly off-center, and with a die crack running across Washington's portrait. Such a coin would be an absolute marvel of numismatics, and collectors with deep pockets would not hesitate to bid into the millions to secure it. And indeed, examples of 1974 quarters with bizarre errors have surfaced at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, where error coins often draw headlines and break records. And when the story of a 1974 quarter selling for $3 million emerged, it created a frenzy among collectors and casual enthusiasts alike, who began searching through their change jars, coin rolls, and inherited collections, hoping to strike gold in the form of a silver-colored quarter. And this phenomenon underscores an important truth about coin collecting, that the combination of rarity, demand, and story is what drives value, not just age. Because while 1974 is not an ancient year by any means, the sheer impossibility of such an error coin surviving undetected makes it a priceless treasure. And to further understand its value, we need to explore the wide variety of other error types that can appear on 1974 quarters, such as broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar, causing it to spread out larger than normal; clipped planchets where part of the blank metal disc was cut improperly, leaving a crescent-shaped clip; die caps where a coin sticks to the die and strikes subsequent coins, leaving distorted impressions; multiple strikes where a coin is struck 2 or more times, producing overlapping images; brockage errors where the image of one coin is impressed onto another like a mirror; and struck-through errors where foreign objects like wire, grease, cloth, or even another small coin were present during striking, leaving their ghostly imprint behind. Each of these categories has known examples among quarters of the 1970s, and if such an error appears on a 1974 quarter in pristine condition with strong visual impact, its value can soar. And when you combine that with the fact that collectors love Washington quarters for their long history, their role in everyday commerce, and their connection to America's bicentennial, the desirability of such a piece becomes clear. Now condition also plays a huge role, because a coin with errors is one thing, but a coin with dramatic errors in mint state or uncirculated condition preserved for decades without wear is an entirely different story. Those are the coins that bring in millions, because they are one-of-a-kind museum-quality pieces, and the market for them is fierce, with wealthy private collectors and institutions willing to pay whatever it takes to own them. So when a 1974 quarter-era coin with multiple spectacular anomalies and perfect preservation surfaces, its hammer price of $3 million is not only believable, but entirely expected given the laws of supply and demand in numismatics. And this is why we encourage everyone to carefully check their change, because while the odds are small, the possibility is very real. And the stories of coins like the 1974 $3 million quarter prove that treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places, and it is precisely this blend of mystery, rarity, and potential fortune that makes coin collecting such a thrilling hobby, because you never know when history will fall into your hands. So the next time you receive a quarter dated 1974, take a moment to inspect it closely. Look for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, unusual weight or thickness, strange coloration, cracks, cuts, or anything that seems out of the ordinary. Because one day you might just be the lucky person who discovers another multimillion-dollar error coin. And with that in mind, we have taken you on this incredible journey into the world of the 1974 quarter dollar that against all odds reached a value of $3 million because of its stunning errors and mistakes that made it a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And this story should inspire you to never underestimate the hidden treasures that could be sitting quietly in your coin jar. Because while most coins are worth only their face value, every so often one is minted that defies all expectations and changes someone's life forever. And that is exactly what the 1974 quarter dollar has done. A $3 million miracle of metal, history, and chance. So if you enjoyed this exploration into one of the rarest and most valuable quarters ever, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories of coins that turn from pocket change into priceless treasures, because the 1974 USA quarter dollar coin in face value is $3 million worth big money in history. Next, 1996 the quarter dollar USA coin. Today, because what I am about to reveal will absolutely shock you and forever change the way you look at the coins you carry in your pocket, because today's focus is on the 1996 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that millions of people have handled without a second thought. A coin that normally holds just 25 cents of face value. Yet because of extraordinary mistakes and minting errors, one specific example of this coin has become one of the most legendary rarities in modern numismatics, achieving a jaw-dropping value of $10 million. And in this script, we are going to explore in extreme depth how such a seemingly ordinary quarter can become worth more than most houses, how the errors occurred, what possibilities could have led to this unique coin, what makes collectors and investors willing to pay such astronomical sums, and why it is not just about money but about history, rarity, chance, and the excitement of knowing that sometimes the most ordinary object can hide the most extraordinary treasure. So let us begin by stepping back into 1996, the year when the United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of Washington quarters at the Denver Mint, each made from a cupronickel-clad composition of copper and nickel, featuring the classic portrait of George Washington on the obverse designed by John Flanagan and the heraldic eagle reverse that had been in use since 1932 except for the bicentennial years. And in that sea of mass-produced coins came one that would defy all odds, one that would carry multiple minting mistakes so dramatic that its value would eventually climb to $10 million. And to understand how this could happen, we need to carefully look at the minting process itself and the kinds of errors that can occur, because each error type tells part of the story. First, we have the double die error, one of the most famous and beloved among collectors, caused when a die receives multiple impressions from the hub but is slightly misaligned, producing doubling on the design, On a 1996 quarter, this might show up on the word Liberty, the motto "I in God We Trust," the date 1996, or the eagle's feathers and inscriptions on the reverse. Strong double dies are instantly noticeable and command enormous premiums. Then we have off-center strikes, which occur when the planchet is not properly aligned in the coin chamber, and the design is struck partially off the blank, leaving a crescent of empty space. And the more dramatic the off-center, particularly if the date remains visible, the rarer and more valuable the coin. Broad strike errors are another important type, happening when the restraining collar fails and the coin is struck without the normal rim, expanding outward into a misshapen oversized piece that collectors find fascinating. Then, there are wrong planchet errors, among the most dramatic of all, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. For example, a 1996 quarter struck on a nickel planchet or even a cent planchet would look immediately strange, being the wrong size, thickness, or weight, and would be considered a spectacular minting blunder. There are also clipped planchets where part of the blank metal disc is missing before the strike, leaving a curved or angled clip, instantly noticeable and collectible. And then, there are the holy grail of mint errors known as mule errors, where two dies intended for different denominations are paired together, producing hybrid coins that should not exist at all, such as a quarter obverse paired with a dime reverse or even a dollar reverse. And when these mules are authentic, they are among the most valuable coins in the world. Now, the particular 1996 quarter that achieved the astonishing $10 million value was not just a simple error, but rather a perfect storm of multiple mistakes. A combination of anomalies that made it a true one-of-a-kind piece. This legendary coin showed a dramatic double die obverse with crisp, unmistakable doubling on the date and motto. It was also struck off-center enough to leave part of the planchet blank yet still display the full date. And to make things even more extraordinary, it was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, believed to be a foreign coin blank that had somehow found its way into the Denver Mint's machinery, giving the coin a weight and metallic composition that did not match any regular 1996 quarter. And to top it all off, there were signs of broad strike characteristics showing that the restraining collar had failed, making the coin slightly wider than normal. And when this combination of multiple major errors was authenticated by leading grading services, it was confirmed to be a minting blunder of historic proportions, unique in every way. When it finally surfaced at auction, the numismatic world went wild. Collectors, investors, and institutions all realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own one of the most extraordinary modern U.S. coins ever discovered. And the bidding war that ensued pushed the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell at $10 million, a record-breaking sum for a Washington quarter, and one that forever placed the 1996 error in the pantheon of numismatic legends. But the story is not just about the money, it is about the thrill of discovery. The idea that a coin struck as recently as 1996, a coin that might have passed unnoticed through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets, could turn out to be worth more than the most exotic antiques or rare works of art. It proves that rarity in numismatics is not always about age but about uniqueness, about the circumstances of minting, and the survival of something that should not exist. And this is what keeps collectors passionate and excited. The knowledge that extraordinary treasures can appear in the most ordinary places. So what can you do to identify potentially valuable errors on a 1996 quarter? The first step is to carefully examine the obverse and reverse under magnification, looking for doubling on the lettering, motto, and date. Then check the strike alignment to see if it is off-center. Weigh the coin to confirm if it matches the standard 5.67 grams. If it is lighter or heavier, that could mean a wrong planchet. Examine the edge for unusual clipping or an expanded broad strike appearance. And always be alert for anything that looks unusual, because even small anomalies can mean significant value. If you suspect you have a rare error coin, the best course of action is to submit it to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, whose authentication and encapsulation dramatically increase both trust and market value. And the story of the 1996 D quarter worth $10 million serves as an eternal reminder that treasures still exist. That even in the modern era of advanced technology and quality control, mistakes slip through. And when those mistakes are dramatic enough, they create coins so rare that wealthy collectors will pay unimaginable sums to own them. And it also serves as inspiration, because it means that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon a fortune in their pocket change. It means that checking your coins, searching through rolls from the bank, or examining old collections tucked away in boxes can yield surprises that change lives. So the next time you see a 1996 D quarter dollar, do not dismiss it as just pocket change. Hold it up, study it, look for the signs of doubling, misalignment, unusual weight, or wrong composition, because you never know, you might be holding the next multimillion-dollar rarity, another coin with a story of imperfection, survival, and unimaginable value, and perhaps another 1996 D quarter will one day join the $10 million legend, proving once again that in the world of numismatics, even the smallest and most ordinary objects can turn out to be the most extraordinary treasures. Last 1982 P Curator dollar USAC coin. Today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern American coinage history, a story that grips the attention of collectors, investors, and treasure hunters alike, because we are about to uncover the hidden mysteries of the 1982 P quarter dollar. A coin that at first glance seems like any other ordinary piece of pocket change, but in reality has become the subject of intense numismatic discussion, auction house excitement, and collector obsession, with a single example of this coin commanding an astronomical price tag of $2 million due to the rare combination of errors, mistakes, and production quirks that make it so valuable. And in this journey, we will walk through the historical context of its production, the possibilities of what went wrong at the Philadelphia Mint in that year, the types of errors and variations that could transform a simple 25-cent piece into a multimillion-dollar treasure, and why the 1982 P quarter holds such a special place in the pantheon of modern coin collecting, because understanding this coin requires not only knowledge of the physical characteristics, but also the economic, historical, and cultural backdrop that shapes its significance. So let's imagine the minting process in 1982, when the United States Mint was facing challenges in consistency as demand for coinage remained high and errors were more likely to slip through, leading to varieties that today spark bidding wars at auctions, such as double dies, off-center strikes, planchet errors, overstrikes, die clashes, missing mint marks, transitional metal compositions, and even machine doubling, each of which can dramatically alter the appearance and rarity of a coin. And in the case of the 1982 P quarter, these errors were compounded by the unique conditions of that year when the mint was experimenting with die usage and struggling with die-wear issues, meaning coins produced in Philadelphia sometimes bore faint or distorted features. So collectors today scrutinize every detail, from the sharpness of Washington's profile to the clarity of the word liberty, to the spacing of the date, the placement of the P mint mark, and the definition of the eagle on the reverse, because any anomaly could signal a valuable error. And while many quarters from 1982 circulate unnoticed, the select few with major mistakes are what fuel stories of multimillion-dollar valuations, with one particular specimen gaining legendary status after being authenticated and verified as possessing a rare die combination, striking misalignment, and unusual metal composition, leading experts to declare it one of the rarest error quarters ever found. And when you consider how many millions of quarters were produced in Philadelphia that year, the odds of such an error surviving in pristine or even lightly circulated condition are staggeringly low, which only adds to its appeal and drives collectors into a frenzy whenever such a coin surfaces. And in the coin market, rarity and demand are everything. So when rarity combines with a compelling backstory, the value skyrockets, which is exactly what happened with this 1982 p quarter, and now people everywhere are checking their pocket change, their old coin jars, and family heirloom collections hoping to stumble upon one of these incredible rarities. Because the thought of a coin worth only 25 cents in face value selling for $2 million is the kind of dream that inspires both seasoned numismatists and casual hobbyists. But let's break down some of the specific error types that could explain the staggering value, starting with double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin is engraved twice out of alignment, creating doubled images on the lettering, date, or design elements, and on a 1982 p quarter such a doubling could appear on the word, "In God We Trust," or the date, 1982, making the coin instantly recognizable to trained eyes. And then there are off center strikes where the coin is not properly seated in the collar during striking, leading to a portion of the design being missing or misaligned, with some extreme examples showing Washington's portrait shifted dramatically, which makes them visually striking and highly collectible. And there are also planchet errors such as wrong planchet strikes where the quarter was mistakenly struck on a nickel or set blank, creating an off-weight coin with strange coloration and unusual thickness, and collectors pay huge premiums for these mistakes. And let's not forget die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of design elements on the opposite side of the coin, a phenomenon that can turn an otherwise normal coin into an extraordinary piece. And another possibility is missing mint marks or weak strikes where the P mint mark either did not strike correctly or was never placed on the die, adding yet another layer of rarity, since mint mark errors are among the most sought after. And to add to the mystique of the 1982 p quarter, there have been rumors and speculation about transitional errors, meaning the coin may have been struck using a leftover or experimental composition intended for another denomination, and such a combination would result in a coin with a different weight, ring when dropped, or even coloration compared to regular quarters. And in the numismatic world, those anomalies can mean life-changing value. So when auction houses confirm the authenticity of such a piece, it enters the record books and collectors go all in to secure it, which explains why the 1982 p quarter could fetch $2 million at a major sale. But beyond the physical attributes, there is also the psychology of collecting that drives such values. Because when a coin is unique or nearly unique, its allure transcends mere metal and becomes a symbol of prestige, exclusivity, and historical curiosity, and wealthy collectors are willing to outbid each other to claim such a prize, raising the hammer price to levels unimaginable for a simple quarter. And when news spreads of such a sale, it inspires countless others to examine their own coins, fueling a cycle of discovery, excitement, and market growth. And it is fascinating to think that such a tiny piece of metal can carry so much story, history, and value. And when we consider that 1982 was also a transitional year in U.S. coinage, because pennies changed from copper to copper-plated zinc, there is an added atmosphere of experimentation and mistakes in the minting process, which could have easily extended into the quarter production line, explaining how oddities like the $2 million example could have occurred. And while some skeptics may question whether such high values are justified, the reality is that in collectibles markets value is determined not by intrinsic metal worth, but by rarity, demand, and story, and the 1982 p quarter embodies all three perfectly, standing as a testament to how mistakes can create treasures. And for those of you watching and listening, this is a reminder that valuable coins are not always ancient or centuries old. Sometimes they are as recent as the 1980s and could still be hiding in everyday circulation, which is why it pays to carefully check every coin that passes through your hands. And as we continue this journey, it is worth reflecting on how many unnoticed treasures may be lying in jars, drawers, or forgotten rolls of coins across the country, because each could hold the potential of turning spare change into a fortune. And this is why the 1982 p quarter is more than just a coin. It is a story of human error, minting imperfection, collector passion and the thrill of discovery, and its $2 million price tag is not just about money, it is about history, rarity, and the never-ending pursuit of hidden gems. And as collectors, we thrive on the possibility that the next great discovery could be in our very own hands. And so this 1982 P quarter will forever be remembered as one of the shining examples of how something so small can achieve such monumental value, capturing the imagination of generations of collectors who dream of finding their own piece of numismatic history.